Hello. We are here today to discuss General Motors' partner selection as they look to compete with technology giants Google, Apple, and Uber in the emerging autonomous vehicle market. We will be laying out the choices GM has made so far and provide a recommendation for how to strengthen their position as a services company to obtain the most market share. This comic perfectly illustrates one of the major reasons for car accidents today. People readily use technology while driving and are distracted by more features in their cars than are needed. The emergence of autonomous cars will allow people to use all of this technology, but in a safer, much more responsible way. The current excitement around the possibility of having autonomous vehicles have led to some fascinating statistics. To the surprise of many, autonomous car testing reveals that they currently have an accident rate that is double that of human drivers. The problem? These vehicles are programmed to obey the laws at all times, but it does not take into consideration the element of human error that causes the majority of these accidents. In an effort to speed up the progression of this technology and to aid in taking into account human error, the US government is providing $4 billion for research over the next 10 years. There's a belief that this technology can reduce traffic deaths by 90% by 2025, which would save roughly 30,000 lives a year. From a financial perspective, the overall market is estimated to reach $1.1 billion by 2025. And by 2035, it is predicted that 12 million driverless cars will be sold. Consumers are ready for this technology to be brought to the public, showing extreme comfort level in test drives. In particular, 95% of Brazil and 80% of India consumers say they trust these cars. Globally, the trust of the cars has only been about 57%, but it's been rising with each technological advancement. Although years away, the technology required is still not perfect and requires a definitive strategy to get a company ready for market. GM is no stranger to the autonomous car technology. In 1956, GM was fully invested in developing a car for automated highways, as it called them. The Firebird 4 concept was that car. By 1980, this project was scrapped amid internal and market struggles. However, GM has been working on driver assist technology with an eye towards fully autonomous cars since 2005. The future sounds promising, but why change what has been a success for so many years? The industry model is no longer a value chain that flows from manufacturer to dealer to consumer. A fundamental change in consumer mindset due to enabling technology platforms has begun the shift towards a services industry model. Let us elaborate on a few enablers of this change. For starters, the product is expensive and has an accelerated depreciation. It's a large investment for someone to purchase a vehicle, and the majority of that value is gone the second they drive off of the lot. Moreover, the car is used only 3% of the time someone owns it. That means 97% of the time it remains idle and is of no use to anyone. With the emergence of ride-sharing apps, such as Uber and Lyft, it can be more cost-effective, not to mention convenient, to pay for transportation when needed. The idea of having autonomous vehicles circulating through cities, utilizing this technology, and being able to be called when needed has never seemed more appealing. With this possibility in the near future, the old model of selling one car to everyone who can afford one is no longer a viable option. There will eventually no longer be a need for everyone to own a car, and in fact, possibly no one at all. The more service-based transportation becomes the norm, car sales will be one of the first items affected by this. Given the impending changes coming to the auto industry, GM has decided to ramp up its effort to position itself for the services-based model. GM is not a technology company, so in January of this year, they announced that they had invested $500 million in Lyft for a 10% stake, and as part of the deal, they have a seat on the company's board. It will also become the preferred provider of short-term cars for Lyft drivers. This move demonstrates how serious GM is about moving beyond just human-driven automobiles, but more into the mobile ride services industry as well. The initial idea is to move towards a new age of mobility, where selling one car to every person is no longer viable. Early on, it will allow drivers to rent their cars for no charge if they are using the Lyft platform. Moving forward, the plan is to sell driverless cars manufactured by GM to Lyft in their mobile ride service. This means that GM cars built for Lyft must be 100% autonomous and capable of navigating any road it may come across. This also, once again, signals their seriousness about developing self-driving cars. Beyond moving into the service industry, leveraging Lyft will give GM a look into the consumer analytics and rider behavior that it currently does not have access to. This will open up a ton of new insights for GM to leverage in their business decisions going forward. Currently, GM owns a car sharing service called Maven, which was launched in January of this year in Michigan with 21 parking spots. In just 10 months, it has managed to expand to 5 U.S. cities with over 5,000 registered members and over 4 million miles driven. Maven offers features such as smartphone keyless integration, app-enabled remote start, heating, and cooling. The idea behind starting Maven was not only to build out GM's technical skills and innovation, but to also extend the brand image into the future of the automotive industry. Users of Maven get to experience the GM offering without buying, something that goes a long way in the mind of a consumer. GM filed to trademark the Maven name on November 25, 2015. The application, filed with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, described application software for connecting vehicle drivers and passengers and for coordinating transportation services, software for use in planning, monitoring, and controlling urban transportation. In February 2016, GM acquired ride-sharing apps Sidecar along with the technology and most of its assets. Sidecar was a pioneer, helping introduce this concept of peer-to-peer car sharing when it launched in 2012, and essentially allowed anyone who passed a background check to offer rides to smartphone-toting passengers. At the time of Sidecar's introduction, Uber was brokering rides only between users of its mobile app and licensed limousine drivers. Lyft entered the scene soon after, and the following year, Uber launched its own ride-sharing service, UberX. Sidecar led the way and was an innovative leader in the ride-sharing despite a significant capital disadvantage, continuously rolling out new products that set the bar for others to follow. This disadvantage, however, became too much, and Sidecar shut down in 2015. The purchase and development of these two technologies will allow GM to be at what President Dan Ammann calls the forefront of redesigning the future of personal mobility. In addition, GM is also developing a semi-autonomous feature called Super Cruise, scheduled to be unveiled in 2017 in the Cadillac CT6. This will not be a fully autonomous system, but rather have components of automation while relying on drivers to also participate. For example, the cars will have lane centering technology and will scan drivers' faces to alert them when their eyes are not on the road. GM views themselves as ahead of the curve in the automotive industry, but they are not without competitors from the outside, many of which are competing on maybe the most important factor of disruptive technology: time. Companies like Google, Tesla, and Uber are making significant advances in the autonomous car industry. Even in the auto industry, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, and Volvo all have hands-free prototypes in development. Looking more closely, Google is currently running fully autonomous vehicles around Silicon Valley and will soon have vehicles without steering wheels or gas pedals. They are rumored to be nearing in on a partnership with Ford as well. Tesla just began offering autopilot in the Model S car, but has recently run into some issues, including a fatal car crash that has investors and the public worried about the future of the driverless car. However, this remains a big priority for the company. Lastly, Uber also unveiled driverless cars in the US in 2016, starting in August in Pittsburgh. GM is looking to disrupt its history and set itself up for the future of the automotive industry. If it continues with its current sales model, then the company may go out of business as competition surpasses it in the autonomous driving arena. In order for GM to finance this project, they must keep selling cars, regular cars, while technology industry competitors can continue to develop their projects as they make so much money off of other products, Google making money off of search, for example, that they don't need to make the incremental improvements. In order to make their company successful in this market, GM's product development chief, Mark Rouse, has mapped out a timeline of where the company should be with the technology. This roadmap has 4 key points that he says will lead GM into the bright post-car ownership future. Back in 2010, there was no technology assisting in driving, leaving the driver completely in charge. Fast forward to today. The driver still remains mostly in charge, but now has the option in certain vehicles for limited autonomous driving and assistance. GM is currently working on this technology called Super Cruise into some of their models. By 2020, this technology, or something more advanced, should allow the car to mostly be in charge. The human element will be limited to a need-be basis based on external factors. Once 2025 arrives, the car should be 100% autonomous and will not require any manual driving in them. GM has a lot of questions to answer as it looks towards the future. It is currently playing in both worlds of robo-taxis and the traditional driver-controlled models. Which world is better to follow, or can they pursue both paths to transform the company? Given the sizable investments they have made in the future, it will be crucial to map out a strategy to set themselves up for success.